Mobile Skill. And I'm going to teach you guys how to make a turkey bowl today. So this is kind of what we're going for. It's a cute little turkey, and this is our handprint. So these are some simple instructions for your guys to-go kits. So the first thing that's really important that we want to do is we want to leave our clay slab out to harden a little bit. This is just going to make it easier for your hand to stand up. So this has been sitting out for about an hour and a half. And we're going to use this later. So the first step we want to do is we want to take our clay ball that's included in our kit, and we're going to start to make a little bowl. And so what I'm doing is pushing my thumbs into the center, and I'm just making a bowl shape. And notice I'm not pushing my fingers all the way through. We're not trying to make a donut, we're trying to make a bowl. And so I'm kind of just stretching the clay out, and I'm squeezing it, and I'm trying to make it even thickness. So I'm just taking my time here, not trying to squeeze too hard because we don't want it too thin. We like to say the thickness of an Oreo cookie is perfect. So I'm just squeezing around, trying to make it all even. And you can see that I sort of have fingerprints and it's not very pretty. One of our steps we can do is smooth it. So as you see, I'm moving my finger, and this is just going to get rid of all of the fingerprints, and it's going to smooth it out to give it a lot nicer look. So I can smooth my edges, and it's just going to make it a lot nicer overall. So I can smooth my bottom all around. And you can see you don't even need anything extra, just your finger will make it nice and perfectly smooth. And so as you continue, you can do that. And you can do that all the way around your bowl. And there we have our bowl for our first step. Alright. So I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm going to introduce my slab over here. And for this video, my hand is a little big for the size of the bowl. What you would normally do is you can take the toothpick that's included in your kit, and you can go and trace around your hand, and you can see that's going to make that mark. But I have a pre-cut hand here, another stencil, and I'm just going to use this one for the kit today. But you're going to want to trace your own hand. And so I'm just lightly tracing it, and then you're going to want to cut it afterwards. And this is just going to make it a little easier to trace nicely if you're not trying to cut it all at once. And so now you can see I have my design, and now I'm going to cut deeper into the clay. And it may, depending on how hard your slab is, mine actually happens to be pretty hard. I'm not cutting all the way through at this time either. I'm cutting about halfway through the slab. Now you don't have to do this if your slab is softer and easier to cut. But now I'm going to go back and I can cut all the way through this time. It's just going to help avoid breaking my toothpick. Yeah, see, I snapped my toothpick, but that's okay. I can just flip it over. But now that I'm all the way through, I can rip my extra away. And we actually want to keep this extra because this is what we'll use to make the face later on. So I'm just ripping it away, being careful not to rip my fingers. And here's my hand. And you can see that it has all of these messy little cut almost kind of like shreds, I guess. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little cup of water, and I'm just going to dip my finger in it, and I'll be able to smooth away all the shreds. And what this is going to do is prevent it from being sharp when it dries. And so here, I'm just smoothing around my fingers, shaping them if they got a little distorted in the cutting process. Smoothing everything out. We don't really want to add too much water. Adding too much water is just going to make it too soft and hard to deal with, and it kind of makes a sloppy mess. So I'm just adding enough water to smooth my edges out and any marks or anything that we don't want. But I'm not trying to like cover it in water. I'm just simply smoothing it. And for me, I think that looks pretty good. All right, so now I'm just gonna move these scraps out of the way here. And we're gonna go back to our bowl. And so we have our bowl here, and we have our hand. And what we're gonna do, the most important part of clay is our scratching and attaching method, is what I like to call it. And when you attach clay, it's gonna stick when it's wet, but as it dries, if you just stuck it like this, it'll stick, but as it dries, it's gonna fall apart. So what we have to do is scratch it. So I'm making scratch marks, not cutting all the way through. Kind of like a hashtag, I guess. So I'm just going in all directions. And I'm gonna do that in the same place on my bowl where my hand is gonna go. So I'm scratching my bowl. And then I'm gonna dab my fingers in the water, not wiping away my scratches. I'm just applying the water. And then I'm gonna squeeze my hand right on there, making sure that the scratches are squeezing together. And so when this stands up, which you can see my hand is a little tall, so I'm actually gonna take my toothpick and cut it down a little bit. All right, there we go. And so now it will stand. All right. So there we have our bowl and our hand. And you can see it's sort of forming what we want. We're sort of forming our turkey. And so now you can kind of shape your bowl in the way you want it. I'm gonna try and make my bowl a little deeper. I'm trying to keep the hand standing up. And then I'm gonna take my scraps. And so this is the next step, is I'm gonna take my scraps, which my scraps are actually a little too hard, and call this my turkey head. And you can see I just kind of rolled a worm out of my scraps. So you can roll a snake. You can do this in your hands or on the table. And then I'm going to bend the head. And you can see that it's cracking. And so what I'm gonna wanna do is add some water, restore the moisture in the clay, kinda make it act as glue. And that's just gonna prevent it from breaking. And so, I kind of had my head now shape. It depends on how you want it shaped. If you want a bigger head, you can make a bigger coil. I wouldn't go too thick, but I think this matches about the size of my turkey. So, once again, every time we attach clay, we're gonna take our toothpick and we're gonna scratch. And I'm gonna scratch on the bowl where it's attaching, right there. And I'm gonna dab with water, and I'm just patting. I don't wanna rub my scratches away. And I'm really gonna squeeze it on there. All right. So there's my turkey head. And now we're gonna make some decorations. So once again, I'm gonna take some of my scraps. I'm just gonna peel a little piece off, and I'm gonna roll it in my fingers like a ball. And so here's my one, and then I'll make a second one. All right, and there's my two eyeballs. And then we're gonna need our little gobbler thing. So once again, I'm gonna take some scraps, and what I'm gonna do for this one is I'm kind of just gonna form an oval, and then I'm just gonna squeeze in the middle. And you can see it kind of makes two round ends with a thinner inside. All right, now attaching all of these. Once again, we have to scratch them. So I'm gonna scratch, and the eyeballs are a little harder to scratch because they're so tiny. I'm gonna scratch where they're going on the head, and then I'm gonna dab it with water and really kind of squish it on there. And I'm trying to squish it on there really good without distorting my head or squishing my head too much. So I'm gonna scratch this again. Scratch my eyes again. Dab it with water and squish it on there. All right. And I know he looks a little ugly right now, but what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna try and form his face. And so I'm just squeezing it out, kind of making it more narrow to form a beak, and I'm gonna draw on there. And so I'm just gonna go around in a circle, kind of draw, and then I'm gonna draw the opening of his beak. So I'm just gonna draw two lines on the side, wipe away the little marks just like we had when we were cutting our hand. And the last thing we're gonna add is our little neck piece. And so I'm just gonna scratch it, and I'm gonna scratch underneath the bowl. So I'm gonna scratch right here. And I'm gonna dab some water on our little piece here, and I'm gonna squish it on. And you may notice that the bowl is kind of flimsy. We're just gonna prop it up. You can prop it up on the counter or anything. Just get it to stand, and you can let it air dry for a little while. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put some final touches on it. I'm gonna finish smoothing out my bowl. I'm going to draw some little pupils in my eyeballs. And you'll definitely be able to put your final touches on with our glaze, which is our pottery paint. And so that is all I have for today. If you wanted to add any other details, you're welcome to draw on it. You can write your name on the bottom. And then paint will go with your kits. And I think that is all I have for today. So there's our little turkey bowl. And you can see this one's our finished sample. And we will give you some paints to go with it.